Hello and welcome everyone, I am Madals. Welcome to game 3 of this best of 3. And for those of you who are smart will realise that the series is tied 1-1 at the moment. It's the deciding game. Let me introduce these two players. In the top left position, we do of course have the blue Protoss player. It is Fraer, and in the lower left, as the red Zerg, it is Nerchio. Game 1 went to Nerchio. I think I've got it in the right order anyway. I may have possibly mixed up game 1 and 3. So, yeah, not quite sure which way they're going to go around, but we'll wait and see what's happening. But currently obviously tied 1-1, so that's fine. And yeah, as we can see, pylon coming down here for Fraer, going for the vertical wall off from this pylon position. If you got a pylon over here or up here, it would be the horizontal, but this is the much more standard position to wall off, and it's quite a long wall off. You've got to go forge first on this map, in my opinion, otherwise you're in some major difficulties. Of course, Entomb Valley is a really interesting map. One of the key things you've got to note on this is the third base for the Zerg, especially in the spawning position. You're so vulnerable to having a pylon come down in this sort of, or basically anywhere right of here, so anywhere over this sort of place. Some zealots or something coming into the third base. Meanwhile, while a bit of aggression comes in on the natural, you then split apart the defensive force of the Zerg player, and you're going to do some great damage. And it can be incredibly hard to deal with that. So wait and see. Also, it's probably the easiest map in the ladder to take a third base as a Protoss player, because all you do is you get your wall off here as per normal, knock down these rocks, completely wall off your third and take your third base. And then the Zerg player doesn't have much options. One of the best ways to deal with that actually though is roach drops in. It's really effective. You can go for a Nidus as well if you're feeling fancy. But all in all, that's generally what I'm expecting to see. What I'm not expecting to see though is this. This is a lot of Zerglings. So Nerchio is very much so going to try and push through here, knowing that, hang on, I know this map has an incredibly annoying wall off. It's really difficult to get it down, so if I just send some Zerglings in, it'll be fine. And what Nerchio can try and do is use this drone to soak up a bit of the fire from the cannon, trying to allow the Zerglings to get through a bit further. But he needs to drag that drone back just in time. He needs to time it just right, but is not going to be able to, unfortunately. And there comes down the pylon, and well, a couple of the Zerglings get through, and of course now this is going to massively delay this natural base. As long as Nerchio is careful, he can sit over here for an absolutely ridiculous amount of time without Fraer being able to do anything. And he may even try and go into the main base, but wait and see, because what you can do is you can use the Overlord to soak up some of the cannon fire and then just run the Zerglings in. But again, that's something which is quite micro-intensive, and you've got to be quite lucky and hope that your opponent doesn't focus fire down the Zerglings with a cannon, because that is when you can run into problems. So, as we can see, Nerchio is now in a lovely spot. He's like, well, you're not going to be taking your expansion. That much I can be sure of. And it's not going to go down for a long time. You're going to need at least the Zealot out to clean this. And with 5 Zerglings there, you're probably going to need more than just the Zealot, because you're not going to be able to engage perfectly. If Nerchio micros even in the slightest, he'll be in a comfortable position. Looking here, obviously we do have the Queen out now. The natural trying to go down, but is going to discover that, hang on, that's a pylon. Pylons are incredibly irritating. The probe does manage to survive as well. Still no natural base though. Cybercore coming down. So with this much commitment from Fraer, or rather lack of ability to take the natural base, it forces Fraer to put on some aggression. If he doesn't, it's just so far delayed that he's going to run into some major problems. There we go, with the pylon coming down. The second queen is on its way through. The first queen just wandering down here. Should wander back up to the main though, that's fine. The Zealot is now out, and it's going to be a micro battle. Basically, you've got to get some good engagement. Does manage to get the surround. That is precisely what Nerchio needs, and he does. Is he going to be able to take down? He does, and keeps 3 Zerglings alive. My goodness, that is frustrating. Still, this natural base is going to be delayed, because you just can't take it until this Stalker is out. And with such a huge delay, Fraer is without doubt in a massive amount of problems. We should see Nerchio, well, he will take his third base at some point. He just wants to make sure he's safe first. He's got to ideally identify whether his opponent is going for some aggression. He is indeed. 4 gates going to be coming in. That was really the only option Fraer had, of some form of pressure. If you don't put on some pressure here, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. Your economy is not going to match that of your opponent. So the important thing for Nerchio now is actually don't expand. And he needs to identify correctly that this expansion is not coming down yet. He's just keeping the Zergling there for as long as possible. And he should see the Chrono Boost coming down on the Cyber Core as well. So with that, you can be relatively sure of what's coming. The natural base is nearly down. This pylon needs to get identified. Is a Zergling rally to go over there? Please say it is. It should do. It should see it. And there we go. The pylon spotted. That is a huge giveaway. A proxy pylon that early is just going to instantly say to Nerchio, hey, my opponent is going to 4-gate me. Second Spine Crawler started immediately. More Spine Crawlers coming down. This is, without doubt, the perfect response from Nerchio right now. Get Spine Crawlers, defend, try not to die. And if he doesn't die, he's in a great spot. Looking at the work count, it's equal at the moment, but still the natural base hasn't come down. Nerchio just sending in the Overlord, going to say, yep, no natural. It's a 4-gate, or at least some kind of aggressive play, but it's going to have the +1. So, an interesting position to be in. With these Spine Crawlers, hopefully Nerchio should be fine. He's getting some more Zerglings out now. He needs to hold off. As long as these first few waves do manage to hold off, it should be okay. Some more Spine Crawlers starting to move forward as well now. With the Queen trying to soak up some of the damage, it's okay. A couple more Queens would have been good. The Zerglings are on the way. Still 8 more in production, so a lot of Zerglings, and Nerchio should hold this very easily now. There's no way that you're going to push up there without taking an awful lot of damage against this many spines. 4 spines there, already a 5th spine now en route, because Nerchio using his Overlord to see that still no Nexus, and if that Nexus doesn't come down for such a long period of time, you know that you're fine. And also giving an Overlord the 3rd, just in case the 3rd was taken instead, which would have been a possibility. The Zerglings do manage to get a surround on all of the Zealots. The Spine Crawler micro going down as well, but unfortunately Nerchio burrows all of the spines, which is not what you want. A pylon reinforcing directly up into here as well now. And as we can see, Nerchio in a slight bit of problem there from what was a misflick apparently, and losing so many of those spines in the ability to damage is a problem. He's given the high ground up, and with the pylon there, we do see that these Stalkers able to come up, engage the Spine Crawlers in a relatively effective manner. All the spines going down, and the Stalker count getting very high now indeed. Nerchio trying to mass produce Zerglings. He's pulling all the drones as well, trying to soak up just a bit more of the damage. Needs to keep the spine up ideally, and does just about manage to. More reinforcements coming in, but the Stalkers are now all trapped and moving the spines forward, trying to get them in a position where they can deal with this. The drones have taken significant damage though. 11 workers have been killed, and while this will get cleaned up now, obviously Nerchio has lost a lot. When you lose this much stuff, and is still continuing to lose stuff, he's got some problems. And amazingly, Fraer able to hold on and keep the aggression going. The final Stalker should go down, and with that, of course, it just leaves the Zealots there. The Queen trying to run back. The Queen needs to stay up so badly. The Spine Crawler is getting focused. The Zealot being pulled back. More Zealots warping in, and Fraer is very, very low on minerals due to the fact he's only on 1 base. He does have a good gas count due to being on 2 gas. But as you can see, the Queen's having to pull back, more spines, trying to be filled, trying to keep them alive as long as possible, more Zerglings streaming in. This is relentless attack, and the Queen does fall there. So Nerchio's production will now be hurt. He hasn't been injecting for all of this time at the natural, so that is a problem in itself. The spine does finish up though, just to get a couple of shots off. Yet more Zealots warping in, more Zerglings on their way, more spines in production, and Nerchio's worker count actually on equal par with the Protoss player, which doesn't really favour Nerchio at all. It's, if anything, slightly in Fraer's favour, but more Zerglings coming in. They're having to somewhat sacrifice themselves quite heavily in a bad trade because they need these Spine Crawlers to get into position. Some more sentries coming down, and with those sentries this is going to get a lot harder to deal with indeed, because a single force field on this ramp could stop a lot. Nerchio trying to move those spines forward, but down comes some force fields. But with the Zealot gone, these sentries are really exposed. The Zerglings pulling back though, trying to stay alive, trying to get their numbers up a bit higher. The Spine Crawler is moving forward, and as long as Nerchio is able to hold this ramp and prevent any vision being granted up on the high ground here, he's in a bit of a better spot, because it means that he can't just have reinforcements in his face. So, as we can see, the natural has now just been chucked down from Fraer, and the push has pretty much been stopped. Nerchio not taking any risks though, getting down a few more spines because he knows the timing of that natural base, so knows he's going to be relatively okay. Picking off a sentry there, that is great times for the Zerg grab. This pylon is also going to go down, but the concern is where are these sentries going? Checking for a 3rd base, and not going to see one, which is great for Fraer. He knows that, hey, my opponent doesn't have that. Some drones now hitting though. And this is a nice timing. The Roach Forum coming out at a nice time as well now. The 2nd gas coming up. Nerchio doesn't really need that 2nd gas right now because he's got just so much gas banked up. But he's thinking for the future. He's planning ahead, getting his investments in while he knows times are bad. And all in all, Nerchio has now held. We can see here Fraer pulling back. The natural nowhere near complete yet, still only 3/4 done. The Overlord knows all the timings of everything. And as a result, with the Roaches coming out and the Lair coming out, it's going to be bad times. The 3rd base has got to be taken. So many sentries up though, and the 3rd base needs to be taken purely because if you don't go and take this 3rd base as Fraer, your opponent is just going to skyrocket. And there's the Nidus. Oh my goodness. I kind of suspected the Nidus, but it's not going to work now, unfortunately, because we do have a pylon there. So the only place a Nidus could go down is up in this position, but it's not likely. But look at this, a Stargate play. This is actually a very smart choice out of Fraer, because he knows his opponent has gone spine heavy, is low on bases, probably doesn't have his evolution chambers down yet, therefore can't get spores, and his tech is likely to be a bit behind. What Nerchio really needs is to scout that. If he was able to scout the spine crawler, he'd be in a much happier position, because he'd suddenly, or rather scout the Stargate, because then he could chuck down his evolution chamber, or get a Hydrogen. A Hydrogen would actually be perfect in this situation, because it's only a gateway force with a commitment to air when your opponent is really being thrown off their normal teching path, and as a result, you're going to do very well. The Hallucinated Phoenix coming in, just getting some good information, good scouting. What does my opponent have? The Evo, and double Evo rather, and the Infestation Pit on its way now, so there's the Infestors. Again, Infestor, Ling, Roach is going to be great right now. A Void Ray actually being chosen out of the Stargates, so that is quite surprising. I thought we might see some Phoenix for the harassment potential, but instead just going straight up for a Skill Ray, trying to go and deal some damage and stop this inevitable push. But look at this, the creep spread, perfect. You know that your opponent won't be able to take that base for over a minute now. It's going to delay things quite a lot. The Roaches are going to trap all of these sentries. Oh my goodness, this could actually be game ending. All of the sentries are going to go down potentially here. Some good burrow play at the moment straight out of Nerchio. And has Fraer done the impossible and managed to save these sentries? It would appear he has. And if those sentries had gone down, Fraer would have been pretty much out of it, in my opinion, because he's got very little other forces out. He's getting his second Void Ray now, but as we can see, burrowing up the Roaches, just keeping them there as a threat. Nerchio, knowing his opponent is trying to go towards getting a third base, just gets down his fourth, so he's ready in order to basically stay a base above his opponent. The Phoenix still coming in, still scouting. We've got the Robotics Bay on its way for Fraer. 1-1 melee missile upgrades for Nerchio. And additionally, the Pathogen Glands upgrade and Zergling Speed coming down. But he's still not really got an effective way to deal with these Void Rays. And with a third on its way out now, that could be quite problematic for Nerchio, especially when his Infestors are only just coming out. He needs to get good fungal growth on the Void Rays and then a couple of Infested Terrans. But in comes an Overseer, and where is it rallied to? Just the natural at the moment. It needs to go into the main base. He needs to not turn around when he sees that robotics facility. Keep going, little Overseer. Keep going. Keep going. Send another change and good. Go and scout that out. Oh my goodness, if you see the Void Rays pulling back, trying to deny the scout for as long as possible. Is he going to see it? No, he isn't. Oh, that in itself is huge. If Nerchio had seen that, he could have chucked down Spore Crawlers. He could have been a lot better prepared for this, but unfortunately we'll not see it. He comes in now with these Roaches. Gonna get a couple of sentries actually, that's nice. 2 sentries gonna go down, and of course the third base timing, really quite obvious. The Overlord, no, it's not an Overlord though, it's actually a Phoenix there. A Hallucinated Phoenix won't be able to spot any of this. There's no Overlord spread. The Infestors are way out of position, so 3 Void Rays and a Phoenix are going to be absolutely uncontested here right now. A lift on the Queen will get taken down, and then it's just a case of really waiting to see what happens. And here we go, straight away, there goes the lift. The Infestation Pit likely to get taken out as well now. Suddenly the Infestor's pulling back, and Nerchio is just like, oh my goodness, build Spore Crawlers everywhere, build a Spire quickly, and try and save as best I can. But obviously it's going to take some good fungal growth, it's going to be a good Infested Terran, sacrificing 1 Void Ray most likely in order to kill off an Infestation Pit. That is a trade you'd want to make every day of the week. Meanwhile, Nerchio does have his 4th base up, so he needs to rebuild that Infestation Pit likely. He's chucking down Spore Crawlers everywhere. He could do with a couple more around these expansions just to make sure he's safe, but it looks like he's going to go and take a 5th base and just out-expand his opponent massively. The 3rd base is up and running now, but these 2 Roaches are burrowed a bit out of position. That gives, obviously, Nerchio the potential to harass. The Wall-Off coming with the gateways, that's to be expected. And all in all, with yet more air coming out, Fraer is committing quite heavily to the Stargate play, but Nerchio building the Spine Crawler wall, trying to get things up nicely, getting up expansions absolutely everywhere. His Spire is nearly complete as well. That means Muters, most likely, maybe some Corruptors as well chucked in just to help deal with things, but with the low Phoenix count, you can get away with going for some Muters if you're feeling confident with your control, but it's obviously going to be a downside when there's any Phoenix there, because ultimately Phoenix will win. So Corruptors are going to be the unit of choice. And yeah, all in all, it's okay. Everything's looking fairly good for the moment. We've not got too much else coming out. Still more Void Rays though. And if I think that to be honest, the Corruptors are the better decision, especially when you know the Colossus are there. I have no idea what I was on about saying about Mutas. Ignore me. That was completely dumb. It was really, really silly. I was thinking, what do you do against Banshee, for example, which is a bit crazy, but it's fine. We do have the 5th base coming out for Nerchio. We do have not much else for Nerchio, actually, apart from the Hive on its way. So he's just taking up towards Broodlords. Meanwhile, though, we do have Fraer getting up his fleet beacon. The advantage of getting the Stargate early is you can get your mothership out slightly sooner. And I say sooner in a very relative way, because we are at the 21-minute mark, but when we think of the early game going on for so long, such a delay here, so much pressure coming out from the 4-gate, that the timings of this game have been completely thrown out of sync, and as a result, things like these timings are relatively normal for the game we're seeing in front of us now. We do have upgrade-wise 1-1 done, plus 2 Protoss ground weapons about to finish, as well as extended thermal lards. That's compared to the 2-0 upgrades, with, I believe, some missile attack upgrades done as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so plus 2 melee and missile attack done for Nerchio. But he doesn't actually have very many roaches, he just has the 4. Some burrow back here, and if he sees this force pushing forward, it would be a great time to unburrow and just start picking away at probes, because even just 2 roaches are going to really disrupt this probe line and the income. Some zealots are on their way through though, coming around the long way, trying to do some damage. We've got a Zergling run by as well. Are we going to see the unburrow of the roaches now as well? Not yet. So, all in all, aggression coming in. It looks like Fraer's going to go for some multi-prong harass, with the zealots coming straight in towards these top bases, checking them, and his main army getting a little bit cornered. And that's the only concerning thing, is this army is now incredibly cornered. It can get really badly surrounded just by Nerchio coming on the top, and he has been revealed of where he is now. So Nerchio pulling back. He's got a good Corruptor count. It's up at 20 Corruptors. That's going to deal very well with his Air and Colossus, but with the Infested Terrans coming down, this is going to be very nicely done indeed. We see huge amounts of damage being done by these Corruptors. The Colossus are starting to take damage. The Phoenix all going down and taking up a lot of that fire. The Stalker's focusing down the Corruptors very effectively indeed. We do have more Infested Terrans getting locked down for the moment, with the Colossi doing a good job of cleaning those out, and for the moment the super high Corruptor count of 20 is able to push this back. Of course, more reinforcements coming in. We do have the Voidways getting taken down. The Colossus is about to fall. The last remaining Colossus does die, and with that, Nerchio is now nearly 100 supply ahead of his opponent, and that is usually a very good position to be in. These 3 Zealots, though, have managed to get a couple of kills, so definitely good news. They managed to clear out that mineral line. They're doing a good job clearing out the 4th mineral line as well, and Nerchio just isn't reacting to them at the moment. He's not even pulling the drones back, instead just letting them all die, which is not the greatest thing to be seeing. Broodlords are morphing them, so that's good news. The Mothership Core on its way out here, so with all of this, with the fact that Fraer just killed nearly 30 workers, he has got himself back in economically, but that base, these 2 bases up, are just going to allow a really quick resupply. Broodlords are coming out in force. We're about to go up to like 10 Broodlords. So 10 Broodlords, 15 Infestors, and still 7 Corruptors remaining, against a very, very small Protoss force is not looking too good. We do have the Templar Archives coming out, so that means Archons, which are incredibly important in the late game composition. The Mothership nearly done as well. That if that finishes and you get Vortex off, it's going to be great. And of course the High Templar themselves are going to be able to feed back the Infestors, so there's still hope for Fraer if he can hold off for a little while, if he can get that Mothership out, and if, and it's a big if, he can get some really great feedbacks, etc. on this force. He may be able to level it out. He needs to keep doing harassment like this, though. He needs to keep hurting the economy of Nerchio. But Nerchio getting up spine crawlers rather, at his 5th base, and the Broodlords coming forward. And once you get Broodlords in this position, you are in such major problems, because of course the Archons and the Stalkers cannot get underneath them, and as a result they are incredibly hard to take down. Of course there are 3 Voidways on the field, but those alone will not be too good. We do have a lot of overseers here as well, and Fraer GG's out there, and with that Nerchio takes the series 2-0. No, 2-1, sorry. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you did enjoy, make sure you like the video, make sure you leave a cool comment and subscribe. I will catch you all tomorrow for yet another new cast. Thank you very much, and goodbye for now.